Welcome to the Solemn Vanguard channel. Today we are going over my current Great Nature Premium deck. Now this deck is in my opinion a control deck. This means you are being reactive and you try to not die quickly from all the aggro and combo decks out there. You try to control the game state, and then the longer the game goes on, the more likely it is that you will win. This is the case for Great Nature in most matchups, except for I want to say Pale Moon. They just outlast you better. But when it comes to some of the best decks out there right now, whether it's Valkyrion loop, Fenrir loop, Blade Master loop, Nuedayo, Luard, whatever you can come up with, this deck's odds of winning increase the longer the game goes on. So let's quickly go over the G-Zone first, because that's pretty crucial. We start off with 2 Balaral. This is one of your 2 win cons, I want to say. Well, actually 3. We have 3 win cons. Once again, the longer the game goes on, the bigger this boy gets. Definitely don't want to blast through these with like 8k and 12k buffs. You want to pop this guy when you know, okay, I'm winning right now, or I'm forced into having to pressure. Some matchups you might have to, like Pale Moon, like I said. You use your G-Guardians to spam. You have GB 20,000, you drop Balaral GG. Then we have 1 Fernigas. This card just sometimes comes up. It's very rare. I want to say in like a Link Joker matchup, some people are like, oh, with these current loop decks or whatever, I'm gonna play Freeze Ray, and then, well, here's your out to that. So this is mostly in like Floodgatey matchups. It can come up, but it's very rare. Then we have 1 Mana Garmer. This is usually gonna be your first stride. Not only does he plus you, usually, you know, statistically speaking, he will often plus you, but in very rare circumstances, he can also win you the game. So if you notice, hey, I have a Rhino, 2 Crayons, and I have the CB to just murder someone straight up, this guy can do that. But usually he's my resource builder rather than my killer. That's also why I'm not running 2. This Great Nature deck doesn't attempt to continuously use this to blast your opponent. You're just using it to get resources and live. Then we have a GB8. So this is essentially kind of like Balaral. It's kind of worse as well, but it does help in matchups where they try to grind you out. Something like a Pale Moon that can come up. Beyond that, it's mostly because it doesn't cost soul. You know, if you say like, oh, I want a 3rd Balaral, well, good luck, buddy. You just don't have the soul to use it almost ever. So this is a soulless Balaral, but it's really not that great. It doesn't come up much. Then we have 1 Mirindol. So in Premium, you can have games where you're basically playing chicken. Neither of you wants to give damage. Neither of you wants to do anything. Sometimes you just notice, wow, my board does nothing, but I don't want to spend a soul on Balaral either, because I'm not going to do anything with that, but I want my GB higher, whether it's for Zoa or a bigger Balaral later. So sometimes you just want to be able to stride something that flips without wasting a CB or a soul, and this is the one for that. Then we have this hot mess. Honestly, I don't use it. I don't have the soul for it. It's in the deck just in case that we get to that point where you can like reverse stack. Basically, you can call a crit over a crit and over a crit and start stacking the bottom of your deck until you reach your reverse stack, kind of like Tsukuyomi, but that almost never comes up. It's in here, it exists, but it's a really shitty ass card in a lot of decks, because Great Nature just needs too much soul. Maybe in a big belly deck it works, I don't know, but in this deck it sucks ass. Then we have a Zoa. Zoa is our win con essentially. So this deck either wins, like I said, on the random Mana Garmer first stride, or the stall into a big Balaral, or the Zoa combo that just can't be guarded. That's the big one, I want to say. That is also why, in my opinion, this is a control deck, you know. Apart from a few outliers, if you do the Zoa combo, you win. So the only thing you need to do is live to that point. Make the game last until you do that inevitable win con. 3 Almirage. This is a bit much. The 3rd has come up like 2 games so far, but for that reason I am running it. I haven't needed what I cut for this, which was the 2nd Ardillo or the 2nd Sankalpa. If you want to fit that, go right ahead, but again, I haven't needed it. This is like a flex spot, I want to say, depending on what you feel like. But of course you do need 2 for your Mary Martin plays. This deck lives off basically stopping any loop deck or any crazy Luard stuff, anything like that. You just pop it and you go on. Then 1 Ardillo. This is just our freest G-Guard. This guy is really good with Big Belly, but we're not playing Big Belly. Sankalpa, just free drawing, why not? Kundalini, free CB. This deck uses so much resources, it's absolutely insane. And then 2 Spangled, which is, you know, your free draw cheat. Draw 20,000 cards, whatever you want to do. So far, nothing out of the ordinary. So then we get to our baby, our new Isabelle. So you could technically run the old one because it's quite niche. Overall, all you really need is the fact that all of your mill techniques go off, because that way you can pop your opponent's field in their own turn with Mary Martin. That's all you need. That's really the reason. However, of course, it's also fun that you get to stack your deck, so that kind of helps. It's also like the old Isabelle's skill where she pluses you, it costs a soul, and we just don't have soul. It's that simple. The Pew Pew play, like the Nile Griffin play, costs 2 soul. That's already 2. If you had to use your Isabelle skill on top of that, like fuck that, it's literally not worth it. So I'd rather have the stack. Beyond that, you can call this check top 3. If you don't like the top 3, just call a mini belly and now you have another shot at a better drive check. So overall, this just does more without costing the soul resource. But the most important part is, you know, popping something. Speaking of popping something, we have our Mary Martin. This is crucial. Again, like current premium has so many weird win cons that are so hard to play around once they actually reach them that you just need this as your backup. It is what it is. Personally, I would like to see Bushiroad have like a big old ban list where they nuke like 5 decks at once. You could argue they also need it in standard, but I don't really care. But if Bushi won't nuke them, we will have to. So that's why this one is in here. Pop that Gleipnir, pop that Valkyrion, pop that Vision token, goodbye all of you. Pop new Dio stings before they can even restand, so you stop 2 attacks in one go. Pop the Dagda while the other column is attacking. Again, loads of shit you can do. This deck really needs to find this. Then we have 3 Rhino. This is basically part of all your win conditions. So it's kind of a brick because you don't want to ride it. You also don't want to throw it away for stride. So it's a bit awkward, but you really need it. Like you need to draw this ASAP in order to get your Zoa combo together. Because like you don't have the resources to Mary Martin every single turn either. You generally can do 1 Mary Martin or maybe 2. Yes, I've done it 3 times already, but usually it's 2 or 1. And then you need to see him. So if you only run 2, it's just really hard to get there, especially because you're already using your grade 3 searchers to find your Mary Martins and your Isabelle for Zoa, so you just have to hard draw it really. Next up, best grade 2 ever. This is also why soul is an issue, because I always want to ride this. It's just a free +1 and it's not just a draw, it's also a check top 2 that is so good. This card is just insane. I also cut Compass Line and Baku and Mike and all of that shit because quite frankly, all the standard support now is so fucking broken that you need to be plussing, hard plussing. You don't just want to filter. You don't want to have to call 2 cards to search 1 grade 3 with the whole compass thing. It just doesn't work. Standard decks without G-zones will nuke you if you don't hard plus. And the only way to hard plus is basically this guy in Great Nature. That's also the big issue Great Nature always had, you know? I kind of call it a 5k shield deck, and Noman also makes that joke all the time where you use your Spangled and you draw 16 cards, but those 16 cards are like barely any shield because all of your cards are either no shield or 5k shield. So that meme essentially is true also in the early game. So in the early game, the Great Nature deck is so fragile that it just randomly dies to anything. And so by being forced into that Compass Line Mike game plan where you're already minusing 2 to find 1, and sure, if you have multiples, then you're no longer minusing, I don't know, it just sucks ass. You need to be able to just ride plus easy game, easy life. That's what standard is all about. That's what all the decks were crept to, and now you just need to deal with it, and this is the only guy that can do that. And then for our final grade 2, we have 4 Crayon Tigers. So once again, once we live through whatever bullshit people can do, then we know, okay, now we win the game. So that's either through a Balaral, the Mana Garmer on first stride, or the GB8, which is just a soulless Balaral. So you do that with a Rhino usually, and then a Crayon Tiger, and that's GG. So you do want to hard draw into Crayon Tiger. It's not searchable in any way. And also, I only run 8 grade 2s because I needed room. It's that easy. I would love to have more grade 2s, but honestly, like most grade 2s in Great Nature really suck ass right now, so it doesn't actually matter. You just don't really want to ride this, but it is what it is. Then we have Mini Belly. This is a fun one. I hate grade 3 searchers usually, but in this deck it's just so crucial, not only to just, you know, find Isabelle to ride correctly, because riding Rhino, you might as well just scoop. It's also finding you know, Isabelle correctly and then Mary Martin. This deck also runs a lot of draw triggers, so that way you can get rid of garbage and get really good pieces. So yeah, while grade 3 searchers as a whole I feel are very shit cards, in this deck they are just crucial. Then we have our Cray Elemental package. We have 4 Loroks. So once again, we want to survive. Survival is key. This deck basically needs to live and then it wins. As I said, Great Nature is very fragile. That was its biggest issue all along. Like every single time I tried to play Great Nature competitively, like 2 years ago at Worlds, I knew if I last, I win. Every fucking time. But Great Nature doesn't last, because it never plussed early. You know, except for drawing all of your duck bills, but not everyone can be such a god. So you need something to get you through that early game, where Great Nature doesn't plus and Great Nature sucks ass. And then once you're through that, you win. GG. And Lorok is basically our key to getting through that. We get through that early game, whether it's Luard or Nuedayo or some insane loop. Speaking of loop, we are running for Honolly as well. So the goal is basically that if we go second against any of these weird decks, we try to pop some Honollies, and then we're basically praying that our draw triggers draw us Loroks or gets us draw PGs, and that we basically live through that. Once we live through that, cool, now we win the game. GG easy, right? So this package really reminds me of Worlds 2 years ago, where I just spammed all these fucking Cray Elementals because that was the only way to live against some of the best decks, and then we can get to our game plan. Now back then, obviously Great Nature had nothing to really keep yourself together early game, so against Ezel, if they high rolled, you just cried. But now we kind of do, so that's much better. So this is just our survival package, and again, Great Nature has awful grade 1, so we're not really missing out on anything. Great Nature's deck has always been right target, Rhino, Crayon, Mono, and that's it. Everything else is filler trash. So you can choose other filler trash if you want, but all our win cons always boil down to that. A Balaral turn, a Managarmr turn, or the Zoa combo, which is Rhino Monoculus. Everything else has always been up in the air and changing, right? So even now, you know, I just got rid of all the stupid cards that don't do anything, kept those win conditions, and then everything else is literally survival. And getting to our win cons, of course, we have our 3 Monoculus Tiger, which is crucial in order to do our actual Zoa combo. So we try to hit the Rhino, boosted by this, and then GG. A fun thing as well is that now we are running the new Isabelle. She can actually stack your deck so that your mono will always mill a trigger, and that makes it so they can't guard at all. If you don't know about that, Monoculus Tiger, essentially, if it mills a normal unit, they can still guard with trash. If you mill a trigger unit, they can't guard with anything because of the Rhino combo. So basically, you can stack with Isabelle and then do your Zoa combo and have even better win rates, assuming you could, of course, rewrite. Next up, we have 3 of our Soul Pony. I know that Soul is an issue, but sadly, we also need 2 of this bunny. Now, I haven't really tested enough to say if 3-2 or 3-2 in the other way is better, because that's like a really specific 1-card change, right? So I would have to test more, but basically you never want to ditch Mary Martins, you never want to ditch Isabelle, you never want to ditch Rhino, and so you need Stride Fodder, but there's no room in the main deck, if you want to call it that, so we rely on these. But then we also really need Soul in order to use Hamhiko, Isabelle, Mary Martin stuff, Monoculus Tiger, Balaral, so it's a bit tough. I have considered running the Soul draw triggers, but then our deck gets even more fragile, so I didn't like that either. So then we have 3 Pangolin draw triggers, so as I said, we run a lot of those. We want to just be drawing into whether it's our survival pieces or it's our combo pieces. We just need to see them. We live because of these and then just go GG. Then we have our 4 draw PGs, of course, they are the best draws in the game, it's absolutely insane. And our 4 resource heals. Like I said, we have resource issues, it's that simple. Now you can say, what about Pangolin? Like, try to find me room for fucking Pangolin to a point where you can reliably draw it, so like a 3-off. There's just no room for it, sadly. And again, I can't change these into Castagnet Donkey because we're already running these. So if someone is not necessarily doing a loop deck, because there you like really need to draw the anti-loop cards, but if someone is like Nuedayo, you might want to see some V triggers to live. So the more of those G triggers you run, the worse your odds get there. Same against Luard. So I didn't want to run like too many of these G triggers. So 4 is really my maximum. And then we have our V starter, of course, because V starters are just like fucking broken. Ever since they added Quick Shield and like the interaction with Grade 3 searchers, they're now better than like 99.9% of starters. It's absolutely insane. You need a really good reason not to run these. And of course, since we want to be finding our grade 3s, getting rid of a Quick Shield is all fine. So yeah, V-Starter. Also just look at this cutie. Parrot is just tier 5 now because this is tier 0. Look at this cute ass with the little star on his bum. I love this card. Absolutely amazing. So that is all. Hope you found this interesting. Like, subscribe, and I will see you soon. Ciao.